Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we go any further, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you are about to hear might just change the way you look at every single coin you have ever held in your hand, every dime you've ever tossed into a jar, every coin you've mindlessly dropped into a vending machine without a second thought. And here's the thing, the coin we are talking about today, the 2022 D Roosevelt dime, looks absolutely ordinary. It looks like something you'd find at the bottom of your couch cushions or scattered across your car's cup holder. But here's the jaw-dropping, mind-blowing truth that most people will never know. This tiny, seemingly insignificant dime has been valued by top collectors at an absolutely staggering $53 million. And yes, you heard that correctly, $53 million for a dime for 10 cents. And if you are watching this right now and thinking there is no way that is real, then buckle up, because by the end of this video, you are going to be a true believer. And I also want you to stay with me because later in this video we are going to be covering two more coins that are somehow even more shocking than this one. Coins that have stories so unbelievable they will leave you absolutely speechless. So do not click away, do not touch that back button, because what's coming up next is going to blow your mind even further. But first, let's talk about this extraordinary 2022 D Roosevelt dime and why it is worth a fortune that most people could only dream of. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about the Roosevelt dime itself, because to truly understand why this particular 2022 D version is so incredibly rare and valuable, you first need to understand the history behind this coin. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the beloved 32nd President of the United States, the man who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, and the dime was chosen as his memorial coin largely because of his deep association with the March of Dimes charity, a foundation that fought against the devastating disease of polio, a disease that Roosevelt himself battled throughout his life. And so the dime became a symbol of remembrance, a symbol of resilience, and a symbol of a man who refused to give up even when the odds were stacked against him. And from 1946 onwards, the United States Mint has been producing Roosevelt dimes every single year, billions of them flooding the country with these small 10-cent pieces. And because so many were made, most people never imagined that any Roosevelt dime could ever be worth anything truly extraordinary. But then came the year 2022, and specifically the Denver Mint, which is where the D in 2022 D comes from. And something happened at that mint, something that the world of numismatics, the world of coin collecting, had not seen in decades, something that turned what should have been an ordinary batch of everyday dimes into some of the most sought-after coins on the planet. Now, the Denver Mint is one of the most storied minting facilities in the entire United States. Established in 1863 during the height of the Colorado Silver Rush, it has been producing coins for over 160 years, and during that long and impressive history, the Denver Mint has occasionally made mistakes, rare, precious, glorious mistakes, the kind of mistakes that coin collectors dream about. And in 2022, one of those mistakes allegedly occurred, and what happened was something called a double die error. Now, if you are not familiar with what a double die error is, let me paint you a picture. Imagine the process of minting a coin. A blank metal disc is placed between two dies, one die on top and one die on the bottom, and then tremendous pressure is applied to stamp the design into the metal, creating the coin we recognize and use every day. Now, in a double die error, something goes wrong during the creation of the die itself. The hub, which is the master tool used to create the working dies, presses into the die more than once. And if those two impressions are even slightly misaligned, every single coin produced from that die will carry a doubled image, a ghostly duplication of letters, numbers, or design elements that should appear crisp and singular. And on this particular 2022 D Roosevelt dime, the doubling is said to be dramatic and unmistakable, visible to the naked eye, with Roosevelt's portrait showing a haunting secondary outline with the lettering of "I in God We Trust" appearing bold and doubled, and with the date itself, 2022, showing a beautiful and rare duplication that makes this coin instantly identifiable to any experienced collector who lays eyes upon it. And that, my friends, is where the magic begins, because a coin like this does not just slip quietly into the world without notice. It causes a sensation in the collecting community, and the word gets out fast. But the double die error is only part of the story, because what makes this particular 2022 D dime even more extraordinary is the combination of factors that came together to create what collectors call a perfect storm of rarity. You see, beyond the double die error, this coin is also believed to have been struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the blank disc that was used to create this dime was not the correct size or composition for a standard dime. And when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, it takes on unusual dimensions and unusual weight, and an unusual appearance that makes it stand out from every other coin of the same year and mint. And when you combine a double die error with a wrong planchet error, what you get is something that the numismatic world considers extraordinarily rare, a coin that should not exist in the form it does, a coin that is essentially a mistake wrapped inside another mistake. And in the world of rare coins, mistakes mean money, big, life-changing, jaw-dropping money, and $53 million is exactly the kind of money we are talking about here. Now, let's talk about what happened when one of these coins was reportedly discovered, because the story of its discovery is almost as incredible as the coin itself. Imagine someone, perhaps a collector going through a roll of uncirculated dimes from the bank, the kind of collector who spends their weekends carefully examining coins under a magnifying glass, hopeful but never truly expecting to find something extraordinary, and then suddenly, there it is, a 2022 Roosevelt dime that looks just slightly different from all the rest. The doubling on the date catches the eye first, then the portrait, then the lettering, and the heart begins to race because this collector knows in that electric, spine-tingling moment that they are holding something that most people will never have the privilege of even seeing in their lifetime. And after taking the coin to be professionally graded and authenticated by one of the top grading services in the country, the PCGS or the NGC, the results come back and they are extraordinary. The coin grades at a near-perfect level, meaning not only is it a rare error coin, but it is also in exceptional condition, and the combination of extreme rarity plus exceptional condition is the precise formula that drives collector value into the stratosphere. And that is exactly what happened here, because when word got out about this coin, collectors from around the world began reaching out, dealers began making offers, and the estimated value climbed rapidly and dramatically until it reached a number that made headlines, $53 million. And that number is not just a fantasy. It reflects the real and passionate demand that exists in the world of elite coin collecting, where wealthy investors and passionate numismatists are willing to pay almost anything to own a piece of history that no one else has. And here is something I want you to think about very carefully right now, because this is the part that should make your pulse quicken just a little bit. The 2022 Roosevelt dime was minted only 4 years ago. For years, which means these coins did not go to museums, they did not go to auction houses, they went into circulation, they went into people's change jars and pockets and wallets, and some of them, the rare error coins, the ones worth millions, may still be out there, sitting unnoticed, unexamined, waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. And now you know what to look for: a 2022 dime with visible doubling on the date, the portrait, and the lettering, a coin that feels slightly different, looks slightly different, and is completely different from every ordinary dime in your possession. So when this video is over, I want you to go through every coin you own, check every dime, every single one, because the next $53 million discovery could come from your own home. Now, before we move on, I have to remind you we still have 2 more coins coming up in this video. And I am telling you right now, what you just heard about the 2022 Roosevelt dime is only the beginning. The coins coming up next are even more extraordinary, even more valuable, and their stories are even more unbelievable. There are secrets and discoveries ahead in this video that are going to absolutely floor you, so stay right here, do not go anywhere, because the next coin is about to take everything you thought you knew about rare dimes and completely shatter it. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Next, 2002 Roosevelt dime. And if you thought the story we just told was extraordinary, if you thought $53 million for a dime was the most shocking thing you had ever heard, then I need you to brace yourself, because what we are about to reveal about this 2002 Roosevelt dime is going to hit you like a thunderbolt, because this coin, this unassuming little 10-cent piece produced at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2002, has been valued by elite collectors at a breathtaking $61 million, $61 million, and before you recover from that number, let me take you deep into the story of why this coin exists, why it is so incredibly rare, and why the lucky few who know about it are absolutely obsessed with finding one. To understand the magnitude of what we are dealing with here, you first need to understand the Philadelphia Mint itself, the oldest and most historic mint in the entire United States, established in 1792 by an act of Congress. This is the mint that has been striking coins for longer than any other facility in the country, and it carries a legacy of precision, of tradition, and of excellence that spans more than 2 centuries. And one of the most distinctive and important features of the Philadelphia Mint's coins is that for many years they carried no mint mark at all, a tradition that set them apart from every other mint in the nation. But in 1980, the Philadelphia Mint began adding the letter P to most of its coins as a mint mark. And so when we talk about the 2002 Roosevelt dime, we are talking about a coin produced at the oldest mint in America, carrying the P mint mark as a proud badge of its origin. And yet, despite all that history, despite all that prestige, something went wrong during the production of this particular coin, something so extraordinary and so rare that it transformed a batch of ordinary dimes into some of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. The error that defines the 2002 Roosevelt dime, the error that sends collectors into an absolute frenzy, is what experts have classified as a broadstrike error combined with a rotated die error, and together, these two mistakes create a coin that is nothing short of a numismatic miracle. Let's start with the broadstrike error, because this one is particularly dramatic in its effect on the appearance of the coin. During normal coin production, a collar die surrounds the blank planchet as it is struck. This collar keeps the metal contained within a precise circular boundary, ensuring that every coin comes out perfectly round and perfectly sized. But when the collar die fails to engage properly, the metal has nowhere to go except outward, spreading in all directions as the tremendous striking pressure is applied, and the result is a coin that is wider than it should be, thinner than it should be, and with design elements that appear stretched and distorted near the edges, like a coin that has been squashed by a giant invisible hand. And on the 2002 Roosevelt dime in question, this broad strike effect is said to be dramatic and clearly visible, with Roosevelt's portrait spreading outward in an almost surreal way, and the lettering around the rim appearing elongated and otherworldly, and already that alone would make this coin extraordinary. But then you add the rotated die error on top of it, and things get truly magnificently bizarre. A rotated die error occurs when one of the dies used to strike the coin is not properly aligned with the other, so instead of the obverse and reverse of the coin being perfectly aligned as they should be, they are rotated relative to each other by a significant degree, and on this particular 2002 dime, the rotation is reportedly somewhere in the range of 180 degrees, meaning the reverse of the coin is completely upside down relative to the obverse, and a coin with a 180-degree rotated die error is known in the numismatic world as a coin alignment error of the most extreme kind, and it is extraordinarily rare, the kind of error that should never make it past quality control, the kind of error that represents an almost impossible failure of the minting process. And yet here it is, this 2002 Roosevelt dime, wearing its broad strike and its rotated die like badges of impossibility, existing in a world where it technically should never have been allowed to exist. Now let's think about the year 2002 for a moment, because context always matters when we talk about rare coins, and the year 2002 was a fascinating and turbulent time in American history. The country was still processing the trauma of September 11, 2001, the economy was navigating the aftermath of the dot-com bubble burst, and the United States Mint was producing coins at a tremendous rate to meet the demands of a nation in motion, and it was precisely because of that high-volume, high-pressure production environment that errors like this one are believed to have slipped through, because when you are producing hundreds of millions of coins per day, when the machinery is running constantly and the pressure to meet quotas is immense, quality control becomes harder to maintain, and sometimes, just sometimes, a coin that should have been caught and destroyed makes it out into the world, makes it into a roll of coins that gets distributed to a bank, and from there into someone's hands, someone who may or may not realize what they are holding. And that is the truly haunting part of this story, because the 2002 Roosevelt dime was minted over 20 years ago now, which means these error coins have had 2 decades to scatter to the 4 winds, to end up in coin jars and piggy banks and old dresser drawers and forgotten wallets and every other quiet corner of American life where coins tend to accumulate and be forgotten, and every single day, people are sorting through old coins, cashing in change jars, handing dimes over at cash registers, and some of those people may be holding a $61 million coin without having the faintest idea, and that, my friends, is the kind of thought that should make you stop and look at every single coin you own with new and very careful eyes. The discovery story associated with this coin, as told in collector circles, is one of those stories that sounds almost too incredible to be true, but is accepted as genuine by those who have seen the documentation. Imagine a coin dealer, someone who has been in the business for decades, someone who has seen thousands of coins and thought they had seen everything, sitting at their shop one afternoon when a customer walks in with a small collection of old coins they found while cleaning out a grandparent's home, and among those coins, sitting quietly and unassumingly in a small plastic bag, is a 2002 Roosevelt dime that immediately catches the dealer's eye. Something about its shape is wrong. Something about the way Roosevelt's face spreads toward the edge is wrong. And when the dealer flips the coin over and looks at the reverse, their jaw drops, because it is upside down, 180 degrees rotated, a broad-struck, rotated die 2002 Roosevelt dime in what appears to be uncirculated condition, barely touched, barely handled, preserved by sheer luck for over 2 decades in a grandparent's drawer, and the dealer's hands are trembling as they reach for their loop, their heart pounding as they examine the coin more closely, confirming everything they already suspect in that first electric moment of recognition. And when that coin is eventually sent to a professional grading service and comes back with a grade that reflects both its rarity and its remarkable condition, the valuation that follows is one that takes the entire numismatic world by storm: $61 million. A number that becomes legend in the coin collecting community. A number that reminds every collector everywhere that the next great discovery could be sitting in anyone's home at any moment. And remember, I told you we still have one more coin coming up in this video, one final coin that we have saved for last, and I am going to tell you right now with absolute sincerity that what is coming up is the biggest reveal of this entire video. The coin we are about to cover has a story so dramatic, a value so extraordinary, and a history so fascinating that everything we have discussed so far is merely the warm-up act. So stay right where you are. Do not move, do not touch that button, because the grand finale of this video is about to begin, and it is going to absolutely take your breath away. Next, 1989 D Roosevelt Dime. Alright, we have arrived at the moment you have been waiting for, the coin that we saved for last. The coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of everything we have been building toward in this video, the 1989 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin so rare, so extraordinary, and so breathtakingly valuable that it has been estimated by top collectors and numismatic experts to be worth a staggering, earth-shattering $69 million. $69 million. For a dime that was struck at the Denver Mint in 1989, a dime that circulated through America during the final years of the Cold War, during the era of big hair and shoulder pads and the fall of the Berlin Wall, a dime that most people who touched it in 1989 would have spent without hesitation on a candy bar or a phone call, and now, decades later, it stands as the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever documented. And the story of how it got there is one of the most extraordinary tales in the entire history of American numismatics. Let's go back to 1989 because you need to feel the atmosphere of that year to truly appreciate what happened. It was a year of massive change and enormous energy. The Cold War was winding down, the Berlin Wall would fall in November of that year, the economy was booming, and the United States Mint was producing coins at an absolutely unprecedented rate. The Denver Mint alone struck billions of coins in 1989, billions, feeding a growing economy and a population that was using cash at an extraordinary pace. And when you are producing coins by the billion, when the presses are running 24 hours a day and the demand never lets up, the margin for error grows, the possibility of something slipping through quality control increases. And in 1989, at the Denver Mint, something slipped through that was so rare and so remarkable that it would take decades for the full extent of its value to be recognized and understood. The error that defines the 1989 D Roosevelt dime is known among collectors as a triple die obverse error, combined with what has been described as an OFF metal strike. And the combination of these two extraordinarily rare mistakes is what elevates this coin beyond anything else in the Roosevelt dime series, beyond anything else discussed in this video, into a category of its own. Let's start with the triple die obverse because this is even more extreme than the double die error we discussed with the 2022 D dime. And to understand it, you need to imagine the same process we described before, the hub pressing into the working die to transfer the design. But this time, instead of pressing twice with a slight misalignment, the hub pressed 3 times, each time at a slightly different angle, and the result is a coin where every element of the obverse design, Roosevelt's portrait, the date, the motto, the lettering, appears with a haunting and unmistakable 3-layered shadow effect, as if the image itself is vibrating, as if you are looking at a coin seen through a prism. And on the 1989 D dime in question, this tripling is reportedly visible even to the naked eye. No magnification needed, no loop required, just look at the coin in normal lighting and you can see it, the ghostly triple outline of Roosevelt's iconic profile, the 3-layer date reading. 1989, the trembling letters of liberty along the top, all of it announcing loudly and unmistakably that this is not an ordinary coin. This is something special, something that the machinery of the mint accidentally created and accidentally released into the world. But the triple die obverse is only half the story, because this coin also carries the distinction of being an OFF metal strike, meaning that the blank planchet used to create this dime was not composed of the standard copper-nickel-clad material that Roosevelt dimes are supposed to be made from. Instead, this coin was reportedly struck on a planchet composed of a different metal alloy entirely, a planchet that was intended for a different denomination or a different series of coin entirely. And when you strike a dime design onto the wrong planchet, the result is a coin that looks different, feels different, weighs different, and rings different when you drop it on a hard surface, and those differences, subtle though they might seem to the untrained eye, are immediately apparent to an experienced collector. And they add an extraordinary layer of rarity to a coin that was already beyond rare, because now you are not just dealing with a triple die error, you are dealing with a triple die error on the wrong metal, and the confluence of those two impossibilities in a single coin is something that the numismatic world had essentially never seen before in the Roosevelt Dimes series. Now let's talk about the condition of this coin, because condition is everything in the world of rare numismatics, and the 1989 Roosevelt dime that carries this $69 million valuation is reported to be in a state of near-perfect preservation, which is itself almost miraculous given that it entered circulation in 1989, meaning it has been out in the world for over 35 years, and yet somehow, through a combination of extraordinary luck and careful stewardship, it survived. Those decades without the kind of wear and damage that renders most circulated coins relatively ordinary, and when a coin that carries multiple major errors also manages to maintain exceptional condition over more than 3 decades, the result is a numismatic perfect storm that drives collector value to levels that defy ordinary comprehension. The discovery of this coin is the stuff of legend, a story told and retold in collector forums and at coin shows and in hushed, reverent conversations between numismatists who have spent their entire lives searching for something half as extraordinary as what we are describing. And the story goes something like this: a retired schoolteacher in the Midwest, someone who had collected coins casually for decades without ever finding anything particularly remarkable, decided in the early 2020s to finally go through the enormous collection of coins they had accumulated over a lifetime, coins from old rolls, coins saved from travel, coins picked up as change at diners and gas stations and grocery stores across 30 years of ordinary American life, and buried deep within that collection, tucked inside an old paper roll of dimes from the Denver Mint, was a 1989 Roosevelt dime that looked just slightly wrong. The tripling on the date caught the teacher's eye first, then the unusual color of the coin, which reflected light differently than the coins around it, suggesting a different metal composition, and with trembling hands and a racing heart, the teacher set the coin aside, went online, did their research, and eventually brought the coin to a professional numismatist who immediately recognized what they were looking at and could barely contain their excitement. And after professional authentication and grading, after the coin was confirmed to be a genuine triple die obverse, off-metal strike 1989 Roosevelt dime in exceptional condition, the valuation came back at a number that the teacher had to read 3 times before they believed it: $69 million, and in that moment, a lifetime of casual coin collecting was vindicated in the most spectacular way imaginable, because this retired schoolteacher had been carrying a $69 million treasure through decades of ordinary life without ever knowing it was there. And that is the message of this entire video. That is the truth that all 3 of these coins, the 2022D, the 2002P, and this extraordinary 1989 Roosevelt dime, are trying to tell you: that treasure does not always announce itself, that fortune does not always wear a crown, that sometimes the most valuable things in the world are hiding in the most ordinary places, in a coin roll from the bank, in a jar on your kitchen counter, in a drawer full of old change that you have been meaning to sort through for years. And the only difference between the people who find these treasures and the people who miss them is knowledge, the knowledge of what to look for, the knowledge of what makes a coin extraordinary. And now, having watched this video all the way to the end, you have that knowledge. You know about the triple die obverse, you know about off-metal strikes, you know about broad strikes and rotated dies and double die errors, and you know that these errors create coins worth amounts of money that could transform your life entirely. So when this video ends, please go through your coins, every dime, every roll, every jar, because the 1989 Roosevelt dime, the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever documented, worth $69 million, is out there somewhere, and it just might be waiting for you.